This is True News, the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help us God. Governor Ron DeSantis wants the Florida state legislature to pass legislation this year that would outlaw mask and vaccine mandates in the Sunshine State. Let's look at an article published today by the Tampa Bay Times. DeSantis wants ban on COVID mask and vaccine mandates to be permanent. Doc, this is good news in the state of Florida.
Yes, and so one of the benefits of living here in the state of Florida, despite facing pushback from medical professionals and businesses, Governor Ron DeSantis announced legislation Tuesday that would make permanent a law to penalize companies that require employees to wear masks or be vaccinated for COVID-19, and added a new ban on medical boards reprimanding doctors for spreading COVID misinformation.
Of course, Tampa Bay Times had to put a little spin on it.
Right.
It's not about doctors spreading misinformation. It's about medical boards punishing doctors for telling the truth.
Right. So, and as you said, there's going to be a spin to this. So the proposal will attempt to make permanent a series of laws passed by legislators in November of 2021 after Governor DeSantis called a special session aimed at restricting Florida businesses that were following a federal law requiring mask mandates or requiring employees to be vaccinated.
All right, I got to correct the Tampa Bay Times one more time. There was no federal law.
That's true.
There was no federal law.
There were regulations, there were what do you call it, directives, but,
yes,
but there was no law.
A presidential directive, that's
right.
not a law. And the CDC, which were recommendations.
Yes, and they've said that too. So now, if approved by Florida legislators, the measure would continue to prohibit COVID-19 vaccine and mask requirements in schools and government, and prohibit COVID-19 vaccine requirements for employment or travel. Now, this year, Governor DeSantis wants to expand the sanctions on businesses by prohibiting employers from hiring or firing based on vaccine status or wearing a mask. And he wants to revive a failed proposal from last year's legislative session that would make it more difficult for a medical licensing board to reprimand or sanction a doctor for views expressed by the medical professional, including on social media. Now, Florida Surgeon General Joseph Ladapo also spoke at the news conference Tuesday and repeated his claim that masks are not effective in preventing the spread of the virus and dismissed the effectiveness of vaccines. He said, "This is the first time in history where we are using this technology widely in human beings," he said, referring to the messenger RNA vaccines. Now, you're telling people to put it in children, and you've never even shown the children to gain from it in terms of an actual help. That's the land of crazy. Florida is the land of sanity.
And we have a video clip of the governor's press conference announcing his desire to have a statewide ban on mask and vaccine mandates here in the state of Florida. Let's watch it.
I also believe that being able to live your life, being able to breathe the fresh air is something that should basically be a civil right. You should not have to have any of these mask requirements imposed on you. Yes, Florida will not do it, of course, from the state, and we never did a mask mandate from the state. Some of the local governments did it. We came in and kneecapped them, but you still have some private, like some of these hospitals, it's like, a patient, like in California, the women are giving birth, they make them wear a cloth mask during child. It's ridiculous. And so we are going to have in this package of protections an ability to live your life without wearing a mask, regardless of where you go. And
I have to just, look, I'm a proud Floridian. We have the best governor in the United States.
As it stands right now, yes. So
I am very happy with Governor DeSantis, and I'm glad I'm living in the state of Florida. And hey, if you like freedom and you're a conservative patriot and born-again Christian, why don't you get yourself up and move to Florida? We need more of you here.
Right.
If you're a lefty
Go to the left coast.
Yeah, just stay where you are. Don't come here.
So-
But if you like freedom, this is a big state, and there's a lot of land here.
And they're building houses as fast as they can to put people in.
It is,
So-
the growth here is, it's unbelievable what's taking place.
I heard a report the other day, WPTV said that 1,000 people a day are moving to Florida. Think about that, 1,000 people a day. At the end of the year, that's 365,000. That's the size of Orlando.
Yes. And so, hey, if you're employed in the construction industry or anything in the housing industry, it's good times here in Florida. Get yourself to Florida. Your business will prosper. You'll have plenty of work. If you're in construction, trade, or anything related to the housing industry or anything related to commercial building, I mean, there are large commercial warehouses going up.
Humongous ones.
All along I-95. Every place I go, they're clearing land and constructing massive warehouses. So something's happening here in the state of Florida, and it's a good place to be right now. And I'd love to see Ron DeSantis in the White House, but I also don't want him to leave the state of Florida.
Right, because we don't know what we'll get here, because sometimes Florida can be a mixed bag. We've got a lot of Democrats here too. So can you imagine if Gilliam had made it in? I mean, in that, can you imagine? I mean, we would be the most backward state in the country.
Well, it would have been horrible if Gilliam had won that election. But his career's over.
Yes.
He got called in a hotel room with somebody who was not a female, and his career's over. He had a lot of other problems. Anyhow, we don't want to talk about corrupt. We got plenty of time today to talk about corrupt Democrats.
Speaking of corrupt
Hey,
Democrats.
speaking of, that's a great segue here. The Wall Street Journal, the U.S. Department of Justice, they thought about it, they considered, but then they rejected the opportunity to supervise the search of Biden's home.
Yes, well.
Who did they think was going to do it? Like the Interior Department? Forestry? You mentioned forestry earlier today. Maybe the Department of Agriculture? You would call the Department of Justice, they oversee the FBI.
No, the Justice Department, instead of bringing in the FBI to coordinate the investigation, said, why don't you, the attorneys for President Biden, do the search for us? I'm sure we can trust you.
Yeah, the people paid by Biden to protect him from going to prison.
That we still don't know if they've had any kind of top secret clearance, classified clearance. And so the Justice Department considered having FBI agents monitor a search by President Biden's lawyers for classified documents at his homes, but decided against it, both to avoid complicating later stages of the investigation and because Mr. Biden's attorneys had quickly turned over a first batch and were cooperating, according to people familiar with the matter. Now, after Mr. Biden's lawyers discovered documents marked as classified dating from his term as vice president at an office he used at a Washington-based think tank on November 2nd, the Justice Department opened an inquiry into why and how they got there. Okay, that'd be a good opportunity to bring in the FBI, right?
No, they just opened an inquiry, that's all.
No. Mr. Biden's legal team prepared to search his other properties for any similar documents and discussed with the Justice Department the prospect of having FBI agents present while Mr. Biden's lawyers conducted the additional searches. So according to this quote, Biden's lawyers said, hey, do you want to send a couple FBI agents over? And the Justice Department said the two sides agreed that Mr. Biden's personal attorneys, his personal attorneys, would inspect the homes, notify the Justice Department as soon as they identified any other potentially classified records, and arrange for law enforcement authorities to take them.
That's kind of like the way they did with Hillary Clinton's
That's exactly right.
33,000 missing emails. Hillary, why don't you just have your people search for those missing emails and let us know if they find anything?
And doggone it, they all got deleted.
And the devices got smashed.
Things happen. Even if the FBI was there, Rick, Would it have made a difference?
No.
All right, well, those two deliberations between the Biden attorneys and the Justice Department, which until today have not been reported, shed new light on how the Biden team's efforts to cooperate with investigators have thus far helped it avoid more aggressive actions by law enforcement. So, Rick, how do we know that there aren't thousands of classified documents?
We don't know.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
They could have, primed the pump, so to speak, with a few documents. Remember at the Biden Penn Center, they found 10 documents.
Right.
How do I know there weren't 10,000? I have to trust Mr. Biden's lawyers,
Yes. And
who have attorney-client privilege.
we also don't know if the ones that have been officially found, if they're the most serious offenses.
That's right.
They could be the least serious offenses, and that's what's being turned in. And the heavy-duty national security documents could be destroyed. But we won't know. Biden's attorneys are not obligated to implicate him in a crime.
Right.
They're paid by Biden to keep him out of prison. It's so ridiculous. My ability to be outraged is just burned out. It's just burned out.
I agree with you.
The system is corrupt. It's corrupt. It's corrupt to the bone. And it's a symptom of the American society. It's where we are as a people. We as a people, we're corrupt. And you might object and say, oh no, the American people aren't corrupt. Yes, we are. We're corrupt people.
Yes.
We're corrupt. In God's eyes, we're corrupt. We're vile sinners, and we are a stench in the nostrils of God as a people. Now, are there inside the people of America, are there righteous men and women? Yes. But as a whole, the American public has become vile. It's rotten. It loves sin. It thrives on wickedness.
Celebrates it.
It celebrates it. And it punishes the righteous. That's who we are right now. And that's why the country, that's why you got all this corruption. You will never fix the political corruption until you fix the spiritual corruption. And why nobody talks about this? No, you don't hear anybody giving sermons about it. There's no prominent preachers talking about the corruption of the heart of the American people. That's the only way you can fix the country. You have to tackle the spiritual corruption of the hearts of the American people before you can clean up the political corruption. People are politically corrupt because their hearts are corrupt.
That's right.
Their hearts are evil. But anyhow, we'll waste some time talking about it. Here's an article. Doc and I missed this. This came out 2 days ago by Breitbart. Doc found it today. I don't know how we missed it. This is huge.
It is huge, and it's gaining traction today. A lot of outlets now are catching on to this. This Breitbart from 2 days ago. Hunter Biden's $49,910 rent exactly matches the deposit on office shared with Chinese energy company. So I have a general rule. If you've watched TruNews long enough, I don't believe in coincidences. Don't believe in them. Mm-hmm. And so this is not a coincidence. Something is amiss here. So if you recall, a couple days ago, we shared with you the application that was found on Hunter Biden's laptop that showed that he was paying rent on the Wilmington, Delaware home owned by his father, and of $49,910, right? Well, that just happens to be the exact amount of money that is the deposit or the monthly rent for office space in what's called the House of Sweden on the Potomac. So we'll walk you through it here so you get an understanding. It's not a coincidence. Hunter Biden's monthly rent of $49,910 matches a rental deposit at the House of Sweden related to the Biden family business venture with the infamous CEFC China Energy Company. Hunter's $49,910 deposit also matches the amount of money he logged on a 2018 background check document unearthed by the New York Post, Miranda Devine. Now, the House of Sweden is an office complex that sits on the Potomac. It's very elite. Some of the biggest think tanks and some corporations you have that address there. It's very prominent. Back a couple years ago, we talked about the House of Sweden and how Hunter Biden would use it, and he would get in trouble with the management there because he would prop the door open to let people in, and they had to warn him, we have security here. We don't want you doing that. So we talked about that a little bit, but we never made the connection on these two amounts of money. So in an email on October 13th of 2017, Cecilia Browning, the general manager of House of Sweden, an office complex in D.C., emailed Hunter about a lease that Hunter and his Chinese business partners were trying to terminate, according to emails unearthed from Hunter's laptop from hell. Browning notes the amount of the deposit was $49,910 for the office space, and that it would be returned to Hunter upon signing a lease termination document. She said, if you're willing to terminate the lease of Unit 507, the owners are willing to let you out of the lease at the end of the year. Browning emailed Hunter, please note that there's a security deposit paid by you of $49,910, which will be returned within 15 days after the termination of the lease, after inspection, normal wear and tear. So if the security deposit was $49,910, that was 1 month's rent. That means that's the amount of rent they're paying every month, okay? Now, Hunter had apparently requested the termination of the lease after his deal with CEFC fell apart. The Biden family had previously negotiated a deal with CEFC whereby President Joe Biden, the big guy, would receive a 10% equity stake in the joint venture, whistleblower Tony Bobulinski had stated. Now, I do have good news. This is from Cecilia Browning. I spoke with the head office and they're willing to let you out of the lease as of December 31 this year. Browning emailed Hunter a month later, just wanted to make sure that you received my email and also ask you to confirm so we can prepare the lease termination documents. So obviously he is still in the process here of maintaining that office. $50,000 a month for office space. Hunter appeared not to respond. Browning sent a third email to Hunter on December 14th requesting confirmation on the lease. Hunter, we have not seen you for a while in the building, and I wanted to make sure that you received my emails below. As you can see, I now have the approval to terminate your lease per our discussion in October, either December 31st or January 31st, whatever is more convenient for you. Please confirm so we can start preparing the lease termination documents.
All right, so Doc, what I see there is that Hunter Biden disappeared for 3 months.
Yes. Well, that coincided with some rehab that he was going
That's what I was wondering. Was he in rehab?
Yes. So now Hunter's assistant, Katie Dodge, finally responded January 22nd to Browning. Dodge said Hunter did not want to terminate the lease, but a few days later, Dodge emailed Browning on January 30th and confirmed Hunter would like to terminate the lease. And she wrote, this is Katie Dodge writing to Browning, yes, we are confirming that Hunter would like to terminate the lease and exit the unit at the end of February, and that the security deposit will cover the remaining rent less. We'll pay you the few thousand more for any damage. You can let me know what that amount will be. So what does all this mean? Well, for the first time, we have something that links Joe Biden and Hunter Biden directly with a money transaction. This credit application that Hunter filled out, he put down a specific number, $49,910.
What was the date of the credit application?
That was in 2018.
Was it early 2018?
That's a great question. I don't know that.
I'm wondering if it's, because according to this, the lease would have ended in February 2018.
It's true.
So what was the date on the credit application?
I'll tell you here in just a moment.
But also, Doc, he said he was paying $49,000 a month rent on a house. which was by his father's house.
July 2018, credit app. So he would have been out of the House of Sweden office space for at least 6 months, well, about 6 months.
You know what that tells me? His Chinese money masters were still sending the $49,000.
Yes.
Okay. Maybe they didn't know that the lease had ended. The Chinese were sending the money to Hunter Biden, $49,910 to cover the office rent. Hunter ended the lease, but he still got $49,000 coming in every month. Daddy said, "You just pay it to me."
Yes. Now, there are serious implications about that.
Okay, wait a minute. I bet the lease, because they broke the lease early, I bet the lease had another year on it.
But they were being gracious to him because he was Hunter Biden. They were allowing him to get out of the lease.
Yes, but the Chinese knew how long the lease lasted. They had budgeted $49,910 a month for what, 3 years, 5 years, whatever. Hunter knew the money was still coming in. His dad knew the money was still coming in from China. They had another year's worth of payments coming from China.
Oh my goodness, Rick, I just thought of something too.
So Joe Biden said, don't tell them you canceled the lease. Pay me the $49,000 a month. You know, a rookie FBI agent could put the Bidens in prison. The janitor at the FBI could put the Bidens in prison. This is not difficult.
All right, I'll throw one more in here.
What?
How much was he getting paid from Burisma?
Like $80,000 a month.
$50,000 a month.
But then it got bumped up to 80 at some point.
Right.
Okay.
So maybe that's the contract deal for all these different relationships that they establish around the world. I wonder if it was $49,910 now, but it was. I remember it started out at $50,000. Yes. His involvement with
But
Burisma.
this is connected to China. To China.
Yes.
Okay. Doc, I'm telling you, I got this gut feeling that the lease had another year on it. The money for the rent was coming from China. Joe Biden told Hunter, don't tell the Chinese you canceled the lease.
Right.
Just continue to receive it, but give me the money. I'll rent my home to you for $49,910 a month. Why did Hunter rent it for 1 year? What happened at the end of the year? Where did he go? What home did he get that was worth $49,000 a month?
And on that credit application, he listed the rent as $49,910, but he also checked the box on the application that he owned the home.
Mm-hmm.
Do you rent your own home?
No, obviously you can't. But, you know, he was high also.
Right.
But Joe Biden pocketed $600,000 of Chinese money as rent. His rental income from his son. But his son was getting money from China. And the Chinese thought that they were paying for office rent.
Or they knew that the scam was in operation. That's how money was getting to the big guy.
But the money still flowed. That's the bottom
Yeah.
line. The money still flowed. And I think my theory is right. They came up with a clever way to keep the $50,000 a month. And I hope some investigator who hasn't become corrupt yet, I hope you're listening to us and you're putting this together. We were ahead of everybody weeks ago when we were talking about that nobody, looking at these classified documents had security clearances.
Right, and then suddenly this week it's like, did the lawyers have security clearance? Like suddenly it dawned on them.
We were 2 weeks ahead of everybody on it. We're ahead right now. There's something really suspicious about this rent. And there's a reason. I don't know why Hunter canceled the lease. We don't know about that. But he had this money coming in. It's like, what do I do with it? And I think he talked to his dad, and his dad said, don't you dare in that money flow. I got an idea. You rent my house. I get the money. Because at the end of the year, Hunter stops renting his father's house.
Yes.
Where did he go then? What house could he rent that was worth $50,000 a month? And did he do it? Did he rent another house at $50,000 a month? No, see, the behavior doesn't, it's unusual behavior. And whenever you see unusual behavior involving an unusually large amount of money, that is usually an indication there's a crime taking place.
Right.
The FBI knows this. Justice Department knows it. CIA knows it. They all know Biden's corrupt. But apparently, they're so corrupt also that it's all part of the family. And they can't bust anybody inside the club because they'd have to take them all down.
And then where would we be? That's their thinking. We can't disintegrate the government, can we?
That would be a good thing. Not the government, just the corrupt people in the government. We don't need to overthrow the United States government. The constitutional republic is sound.
I agree.
But the corrupt people that have control of it need to be removed. And that's what we're confronted with. While we're talking about corrupt people in control of the government, so the World Economic Forum is going on this week in Davos, Switzerland. And I've watched a little bit of it. This year, they're live streaming some of it, Doc.
Yes.
They're not as secretive as they used to be.
No, they're boasting about it. They're proud.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
So, I don't know what the tickets are this year, but last year, Doc, a ticket to Davos was $27,000. All right. A single person, that's what it costs to get for admission. $27,000 for an admission to Davos. Elon Musk said he was invited and he turned it down. And he said, I didn't turn it down because I thought that they were involved in diabolical conspiracies. I turned it down because I think they're boring.
And a lot of the sessions are,
Yeah.
but
it's
there's some interesting ones.
It's the private dinner meetings that aren't boring.
Oh, speaking of private dinner meetings,
Yeah.
I learned something today that they end every World Economic Forum with a big Shabbat dinner the last night. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah, and they've been doing this for decades. The same rabbi has been coordinating it and everything. Klaus Schwab and his wife are the host, and the same rabbi has been organizing it since World Economic Forum began. But they end with a Shabbat dinner.
You're telling me Klaus Schwab is Jewish?
I'm saying he identifies as Jewish, and so now he hosts the Shabbat dinner, and basically everybody is invited to come and be a part. And so,
are you implying that the World Economic Forum is a Jewish organization?
Sure, I'll say it. I'll say it's inspired by someone who's Jewish. So,
well, John Kerry spoke at the World Economic Forum.
First of all, that should scare you right there.
Well, he made a really weird statement. Now, maybe we're reading too much into it, but it's kind of odd. It definitely reeks of elitism, that we the ruling class,
the elite,
the elite are here to solve the world's problems. I mean, it's very elitist what you're going to hear, but he made a reference to being touched, and I don't mean that way, but touched by something, some entity for this role of running the world. Let's watch.
And when you stop and think about it, it's pretty extraordinary that we, select group of human beings, because of whatever touched us at some point in our lives, are able to sit in a room and come together and actually talk about saving the planet. I mean, it's so almost extraterrestrial to think about, quote, saving the planet. And if you said that to most people, they think you're just a crazy tree-hugging, lefty, liberal, do-gooder, whatever, and there's no relationship. But really, that's where we are.
Did he say that he was touched by extraterrestrials, Rick?
That's the implication I got from it.
Well, that would explain a lot, wouldn't it?
He wasn't touched by an angel. He was touched by a demon.
By an alien. So.
A fallen angel. He was touched by a fallen angel. He said, we, the elite who are gathered here to solve the world's problems,
have been touched.
We've been touched.
By something extraterrestrial.
Then, he brings in the extraterrestrial part. I think we ought to listen one more time, and just this time, now that you know what he said, think about it. Was he implying that extraterrestrials chose the global elite to run the world?
And when you stop and think about it, it's pretty extraordinary that we, select group of human beings, because of whatever touched us at some point in our lives, are able to sit in a room and come together and actually talk about saving the planet. I mean, it's so almost extraterrestrial to think about, quote, saving the planet. And if you said that to most people, they think you're just a crazy tree-hugging, lefty, liberal, do-gooder, whatever, and there's no relationship. But really, that's where we are.
I don't believe in extraterrestrials. I don't believe in space aliens, but I do believe in demons. Okay, and demons, and I believe the Nephilim. The Nephilim, if I understand early church history, the Nephilim were let me put it like this: demons. Demons are the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim. The Nephilim were the offspring of fallen angels with human women. They produced a race called Nephilim. And when a Nephilim being would die, their spirit had no place to go. And their spirit just wandered around the planet looking for something to possess, to inhabit.
Right.
And that's where you get demons. The Bible says the fallen angels are locked up in Tarsus.
That's right.
They're locked up. So what are these things moving around the planet doing the work of Lucifer? All right, these are the fallen, these are the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim. So John Kerry makes a reference that something touched him and other global elite.
Otherworldly touched him.
Yes.
He said
it's almost extraterrestrial.
Right. At some point in their lives.
Yes.
So it's not, maybe they weren't born that way, but maybe they
got touched.
They got touched later on.
They got tapped. They were tapped and brought in. I've seen this over the years, 25 years of doing this job, I've seen this extraterrestrial presence pop up repeatedly over the years. I remember back in the early 2000s, and I'm talking 2000, 2001, 2002, 2003, Doc, when RFID chips, radio frequency identification chips, when RFID chips were just coming out.
Right.
And TruNews was one of the first talk shows to talk about RFID. And we were light years ahead of everybody else. The company, the original company that introduced RFID microchips, their name at the time was Alien Technologies.
Right.
Their logo had a space alien.
Right. The little green head and the big eyes and stuff.
It wasn't green, but it was, grayish. Maybe these were gray creatures, okay, but the demon head. That was on their logo, on their website. And then because we started talking about it and directing so many people to Alien Technology's website, they changed it. They cleaned up their logo, they removed the space aliens. But it was like, okay, why would you name your company Alien Technologies? Why would you do that?
Well, maybe they were trying to be hip, or maybe they were alien technologies.
Yes.
Well, not outer space aliens, but alien to humanity in the sense that it demonic influence. So.
Yeah, I've just seen this reappearing over and over. I'll tell you another. This is a true story. Some people say, oh, you can roll your eyes if you want to. I don't care. I'm just telling you true things that happened about the same time, early 2000s. Okay. So the Holy Spirit was dealing with me, saying, study these topics. And, it was globalization, globalism, Nephilim, Nazism.
Right.
Right. And the Holy Spirit gave me a list of topics. So this is when I began my self-education process, where I started to learn these things and try to put it all together. So there was a woman. I mentioned her in my book, Final Day. Okay, in the introduction. This is who I'm talking about. She was lived in Dallas, Fort Worth. She and her husband. She was a Christian. Her husband's Jewish. I haven't talked to them in years. I don't know if he ever came to know Jesus Christ as Lord. I don't know. But at the time, he was Jewish. She was Christian. Very successful in business. Well known in the Dallas-Fort Worth market. Lived in a very upscale neighborhood of North Dallas.
Right.
They were well off, Doc. That's all I'll say. They were well off. Okay. Very nice people, a nice couple, and she called me one day, and she said, "Rick, I'm going to tell you something, but you're probably going to laugh at me." And I said, "Oh, I'm not going to laugh at you. I don't laugh at people." She said, no. She goes, "My husband had a dream last night. And when I'm going to tell you this, you're going to laugh at it." I said, "No, I promise you, I'm not going to laugh at you." What was the dream? Now, her husband had zero spirituality that I could discern. He was a nice guy, a Jewish businessman,
Right.
Successful, but he wasn't somebody that talked about spirituality. His wife, however, was very spiritual. Okay. So it was the husband who had the dream. George Bush had just gone into the White House. So this is early 2000s.
Okay.
All right, 2001, 2, 3, something like that. Because it's still living in Texas, so it had to be in that time. In the dream, her husband was in the Oval Office, and George W. Bush was there, and he was surrounded by a group of advisors.
So this is in the dream.
In his dream.
Okay.
So the President George Bush was standing in the Oval Office, and he is surrounded by a group of men and women who are his inner circle, and they're advising him. And her husband, in the dream, is standing off to the side. Nobody in the White House knows he's there. He's
Okay.
watching this in the dream. He's just watching it. And what he noticed is that people who were certain, not everyone, just several people who were speaking directly to George W. Bush, that their face would morph into a reptile. And then they'd go back into human form. But Bush and the other people didn't see it.
Right.
In other words, they were shapeshifters. And they would shift into a reptilian form and then go back into human form. And it just absolutely freaked out this gentleman when he woke up. I mean, he was spooked. He'd never had a dream like this in his life. Never. Told his wife about it. Was very disturbed, very troubled by it. And that day, that morning, she's praying about it, and the Holy Spirit said, call Rick. He'll tell you what it is.
Okay.
And I had just, at that time, just started studying Nephilim, maybe within the last 6 months. And so when she told me the dream, I'm like, no, I'm not going to laugh about it. The Lord gave your husband a dream and showed him the Nephilim, the demonic spirits that are present on the earth right now and are guiding world leaders that they don't even know what they're doing. These world leaders don't even know they're being advised by demonic beings that are shapeshifters, going from reptilian form to human form, but gaining access to great places of power. I said, that's what that means. I've never forgotten that. And I've watched over these 20-some years how demonic our society has become. It has become demonic. Society in general. In the West, especially America, our society has become demonic. The people are quite comfortable with demons.
Yes.
The imagery of demons.
I mean, you have the drag queen shows. A lot of them dress up, in different satanic costumes.
Yes.
Horns and,
right.
All the paraphernalia with that.
We're moving towards a day that Satan himself will appear on this planet. He will appear in the form of a man. Just as Jesus Christ is God in human flesh. Antichrist, the son of perdition, will be Satan in human flesh. There's a person, perhaps he's already born now, he's already, who knows? That person will be fully embodied with Lucifer's spirit. And these Nephilim creatures have been on earth for quite some time preparing for his arrival. Preparing the world stage for him to step out and lead the world. So when I hear John Kerry say, something touched us, the world elite, the globalists.
Something extraterrestrial.
Something extraterrestrial. That's not just weird. I know what that means. I know what he's referring to. And I think a lot of these guys have no idea that they're dealing with devils. They really think that they had encounters with extraterrestrials. But they've had encounters with demons. Look, when Doc and I, the first time we went to
Davos,
the World Economic Forum, look, it is not a trade show. Okay? Think of a real swanky, nice country club in the Alps.
That's it.
Okay?
Yeah, you got it.
It's a country club in the Alps. It's real laid back. It's real calm. But what was weird? So this was 2018, wasn't it?
Yes, the first time.
2018.
Yes.
They had in the main building. They had a structure, enclosed structure with a door on it, in the hallway, in the main hallway. So everybody had to go past it. And it was a witch from South America,
right?
A shaman.
Yeah, witch doctor.
A real powerful shaman,
yes,
woman. And people were going in. Folks were talking about, look, the people who were there were world leaders. Kerry was there that time.
Yes.
Kerry was there.
It's hard to miss. He's like
yes.
7 foot tall.
Yeah.
So
Bill Gates, you name it, presidents, kings, prime ministers, billionaires. Doc and I was standing around all of them. I remember one time I turned and Bill Gates was literally standing beside me. I mean, like right beside me. I did another time, Netanyahu was standing beside me, okay? I think you or somebody in our team overheard Kerry talking. They stood there and listened to Kerry telling, he was bad-mouthing Donald Trump's economy,
yes.
right? But the point I'm making is these powerful world leaders were going into that structure for private sessions with a shaman.
Yes.
And then on the near one of the nights, near the end, we were obviously not invited. They went off-site
Yes.
to some house, and a high-ranking Vatican official, like number 3 in the Vatican, held a ecumenical interfaith meeting, dinner.
With the shaman.
With the shaman. A dinner. That's the kind of spirituality that's at Davos.
And you've got to think, this is a very elite, event. They only allow a few exhibits. There's only a handful of exhibits inside the building.
I don't remember any other than her. It was. And I'll tell you something else that happened that night. Right? Because my business card was given to the shaman. Okay? Not by me. I didn't want any interaction with the shaman. But my business card was given to the shaman. That night, while my wife Susan was asleep here in Vero Beach in our house, and one of our staff members was there with her, spent that week while I was away in Davos. One of our staff members, one of our female staff members, our office manager said, "I'll stay with Susan, don't worry about it. She won't be alone, I'll stay there with her." And around 2 o'clock in the morning Eastern time, the front door of our house blew open. There was no wind. Nothing was going on. The burglar alarm came on. It woke up Susan. Obviously, the sound of the door blowing open. It just wasn't a gentle, open door and push it open. She said it blew open and the alarm went off. She calls the police. I don't know what's going on. The door just blew open at 2 a.m. Obviously, there was nothing there. There were no burglars. But the moment she told me about it, I knew what happened. That shaman demonstrated her power to me. She wanted me to fear her. She wanted me to be intimidated by her power. She was saying, "Look, I blew your door off in your house on the other side of the world and scared your wife." Doc, I've encountered this kind of witchcraft before.
Yes.
Witches are real. They're real. Don't mess around with it. Don't flirt with it. Don't get interested in it. It is forbidden for God's people to have any involvement with witchcraft, even in studying it. Have no interest in it at all. It is real. It's powerful, and you have to protect yourself with the blood of Jesus Christ, the cross and the blood, the name of Jesus Christ, and no witchcraft can touch you or your family. I'm going to go through some stuff really quickly. World War III. German Chancellor Scholz was there.
Yes.
And speaking at the World Economic Forum, and he said Russia must be defeated. We have a clip, I think it's a couple minutes long. This is Chancellor Scholz speaking today at the World Economic Forum.
In order for the war to end, Russia's aggression must fail. That is why we are continuously supplying Ukraine with large quantities of arms in close consultation with our partners. This includes air defense systems like Iris-T or Patriot, artillery, and armored infantry fighting vehicles, marking a profound turning point in German foreign and security policy. We will continue to be this big supporter. As you know, we decided that we will supply not just weapons, but those who are very effective. And the artillery coming from Germany with our howitzer and called Panzerhaubitze 2000, and the multi-rocket launcher we delivered are very effective in this war, helping the Ukraine to defend its integrity and sovereignty.
Remember back when the World Economic Forum used to talk about
That was
economics?
shorter than I thought.
So, but now they're talking about war, and so now here is Chancellor Scholz saying the Russian aggression must fail. Well, there's only one way for it to fail, and that is for NATO to get directly involved and go head-to-head with Russia. And even then, that's not guaranteed to cause Russia to fail.
To all those American patriots out there who are cheering for Zelensky in Ukraine and wanting the Russians to be crushed and defeated and Zelensky triumphant, that war is a globalist war.
You understand that, right? The same people who are pushing the vaccines are pushing the globalist war.
So the globalists met today in Davos and said, this is our war. I don't know why this is hard to understand. It's their war. Why are they out to destroy Russia?
Because Russia won't play ball with them. That's basically
And
it.
Ukraine is Nazi, and let's go, well, maybe another day we'll go down the road of Mr. Klaus Schwab and his heritage in Germany. Okay, it's a Nazi operation. The World Economic Forum is a new form of Nazism. It's fascism. It's a new ism to take over the world, to merge the economies into this new ism that Klaus Schwab is trying to form.
Just like what Branham talked about, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, the Nazism, communism, liberalism. So, but it's all kind of merged into one.
Is the one. This is an interesting article. I found it on Interfax in Russia. I can't find any American reports. NATO representatives visited the American nuclear laboratory, Sandia.
Yeah, so they took a field trip to the most highly secure nuclear lab in the United States.
But there's no news about it.
No, I would think this would be big news, wouldn't you?
Yeah. I mean, look how many NATO officials are there. And there's no coverage in America on it.
And they're going to go back and report to their superiors. Guess what we saw at Sandia Labs?
Well, let's read about what they were talking about.
So the NATO Nuclear Planning Group visited the U.S. Sandia National Laboratory, which develops nuclear weapons components, the laboratory said. During the visit, NATO representatives got acquainted with the laboratory's role in maintaining and modernizing the U.S. nuclear arsenal. Laboratory staff in particular told how Sandia ensures the constant readiness of U.S. nuclear deterrence, the report says.
So the real purpose, it's a NATO inspection tour of a U.S. nuclear lab, which is building nuclear warheads.
Right, and maintaining the basically the nuclear fleet, if you will.
So it's really about making sure NATO is ready for nuclear war.
That's right. That's where this is taking us.
Another Interfax, the NATO Deputy General urged the alliance to prepare for possible future wars.
Future wars? Who are we fighting after Russia, Rick? The NATO Military Committee at the level of the chiefs of staff of the allied countries has met at a critical moment for Euro-Atlantic security. 2023 will be a difficult year. The alliance must prepare for possible future wars, said NATO Deputy General, Secretary General Mircea Geoana.
Wait a minute, just let's focus. Folks, this is the NATO Deputy Secretary General, number 2.
Right.
Said 2023 will be a difficult year. And NATO must get ready for possible future wars.
And again, I ask the question, who's NATO going to go to war with after Russia? I mean, if there's possible future wars,
well,
they've got to at least have tabletopped this.
All right, so I'm going to interpret what he's saying is the difficult year will be Ukraine. It's going to be difficulty winning in Ukraine. That's the difficult year in 2023. The possible future wars is war with Russia and war with China and Iran and North Korea, because they plan to take them all out.
Well, and that's what our audience needs to understand. Now, they're saying that the rules-based world order is being seriously tested. Our security is under threat. Democracy is under attack. Our economies and populations are also affected, the Deputy Secretary General of NATO said at a meeting of the military leaders of the member states, which is taking place in Brussels starting today. And so they're meeting through the remainder of this week.
So we're in a rules-based world order. Who wrote the rules?
And what are those rules? Are they written down somewhere? Is there a book where you can read them?
Well, they have it, but nobody else has a copy of it.
Right.
It's kind of like the community standards of Facebook.
Right. No one can define it, find it, or
But if you
lay it out.
violate it, they'll clobber you.
Right.
So that's the way the West is, NATO. We have rules. You're not allowed to read them. But
Or
we'll
even know what they are.
Yeah, we're not even going to tell you what the rules are. But if you violate them, we're attacking you. That's the way we operate. But he's saying they've got to prepare for future wars. This is going to be a difficult year. Everybody should be very concerned when the Deputy General of NATO says this is not going to be an easy year. Doc?
But if we get through this year, hey, there's possible future wars down the line, too. Well, Rick, there's a story that came out in the Times, and I shared it with you earlier this morning. Pentagon sends U.S. arms stored in Israel to Ukraine. So this story, and apparently it's already happened. The Pentagon is tapping into a vast but little-known stockpile of American ammunition in Israel to help meet Ukraine's dire need. It's a dire need, Rick, for artillery shells in the war with Russia, American and Israeli officials say. The stockpile provides arms and ammunition for the Pentagon to use in Middle East conflicts. We've been storing this in Israel. The United States is also...
To kill Arabs.
Yes.
Let's be real honest about it.
That's what it's for.
The Pentagon has it in Israel so that Israel can kill Arabs.
And the U.S. has also allowed Israel to access the supplies in emergencies.
To kill
Arabs.
Arabs.
So now the shipment of hundreds of thousands of artillery shells from the two stockpiles to help sustain Ukraine's war effort is a story about the limits of America's industrial base and the diplomatic sensitivities of two vital U.S. allies that have publicly committed not to send lethal military aid to Ukraine. So that quote alone is loaded with a lot of information. First of all, it's saying the industrial base cannot keep up with the demand for the military equipment that we need to start sending over to Europe and Ukraine. That's the first thing.
The U.S.
Right. The
military-industrial
right.
complex.
And the second thing is, how do you ship arms, lethal aid to Ukraine without getting involved? You know, Israel especially said, well, we don't want to get involved with this. Well, what a great opportunity for Israel to send arms to Ukraine without them actually sending it. It's the U.S. arms that are going.
I would call it weapons laundering.
That's good. Weapons laundering.
There ought to be a law against it.
Well, there will be when Russia enforces it at some point. Now, Israel has consistently refused to supply weapons to Ukraine out of fear of damaging relations with Moscow, and initially expressed concerns about appearing complicit in arming Ukraine if the Pentagon drew munitions from the stockpile. About half of the 300,000 rounds destined for Ukraine have already been shipped to Europe and will eventually be delivered through Poland, Israeli and American officials said. So it's still going to make another stop along the way.
Yes, but Poland's right in the center of it.
Yes.
Poland's the weapons depot.
But Rick, Israel doesn't have to worry because about this lack of munitions, to kill a whole bunch of Arabs, because the U.S. will reimburse Israel for weapons transferred to Ukraine. Well, of course we will. The Biden administration will replenish any U.S. weapons that recently transferred to Ukraine from an American stockpile long located in Israel, an IDF source confirmed on Wednesday. So it's been already transferred, and we're already replenishing it, Rick. And obviously this has been going on for a very, very, very long time. It wouldn't surprise us that we're storing munitions there, but is this the first time we've outwardly admitted, hey, we've got a whole bunch of ammo and weapons and everything that we keep in a secret stockpile in Israel?
We got a big war going on in Europe, and we got to move some of that Israeli weaponry and ammo. We got to get it over to Ukraine, because we got a huge war taking place there. Israel, they don't have any wars coming up soon, so they don't need it. We will replenish their stockpile. Don't worry, Netanyahu.
And you get new stuff now.
Yeah, you're going to get brand new stuff. Well, Israel's not the only gun running country here.
That's it.
It's gun running.
Yeah.
It's
just big guns.
Weapons laundering. Can you believe Bulgaria? I found this one today, Doc. This is a RT.
Yes.
EU members secretly supplied Kiev with arms and fuel.
Well, why do we need to be secret about it? I thought, we want to be proud in supporting Ukraine. Bulgaria was running a secret arms and fuel supply scheme for Ukraine throughout the spring and summer of 2022. Germany's Die Welt Daily reported Wednesday, citing Ukrainian and former Bulgarian officials. The country is regarded as one of the few NATO members that, along with Hungary, has publicly opposed supplying Ukraine with weapons amid Kiev's ongoing conflict with Russia. So, while they were outward saying, well, listen, we don't want to supply weapons, we don't want to do this, they were secretly running guns to Ukraine.
I think we call that two-faced.
Yes, so.
Duplicitous. Tell Ukraine, oh no, we're not involved in the war. And yet secretly running the weapons and fuel. And did you read where they got the fuel? Oh, you got to see this, Doc. Oh, you got to see this. Let's see. Let's go down here. What line is it
50.
in? 50?
Yes.
Okay.
So,
Yes.
so the paper reported that the fuel Sofia sent to Ukraine was produced from oil Bulgaria received from Russia through the terminal in the Black Sea port city of Burgas. Petkov and Vasilev ran the scheme at a time when polls in Bulgaria showed that 70% of its people feared being drawn into the conflict and opposed giving too much support to Ukraine.
So Bulgaria was getting oil
From Russia.
and then sending it to Ukraine and being paid by the United States for the oil that they got from Russia.
It's a great way to funnel fuel.
It is unbelievable. Well, listen, we have a lot more, but I think we need to save it for tomorrow. Bad news. There won't be any scarcity of bad news tomorrow, so we'll have plenty to talk about. You get the picture. You see where the world's going. We got the deputy NATO leader telling us this is going to be a tough year. It's going to be a difficult year, and we've got more wars on the drawing board, and that ought to worry everybody. That these guys, who, according to John Kerry, have been tapped by space aliens. Just think, whoa, where are? I'm telling you.
And that makes them elite.
Yes, that's how they get to be elite. They got tapped by a space alien. You know, this stuff is real. A lot of people, roll their eyes. That kind of stuff doesn't happen. Look, the world that you can't see is more real than the world you can see. And I didn't come up with that. Paul did. The unseen world is more real than the world we can see. There's a whole world around us in the universe. It's spiritual. And if we could see what's really going on, the angelic warfare against demonic forces and what is taking place on the planet to get planet Earth ready to worship Lucifer. And then the preparation for the return of Jesus Christ to crush the satanic empire. If we could see all that, we wouldn't waste our time on all the petty things that we do every day. we would see the big picture, what's really taking place in the cosmos. The cosmos is preparing for the greatest battle in the history of time. It's the final clash between Lucifer and Almighty God. Satan's already defeated. He said, well, how could he be defeated and still fighting? Well, that's very possible. You can defeat somebody
and they can still fight.
And they still fight.
Jesus said that Satan has already been judged.
He's been judged. He's been defeated. Jesus Christ came out of the grave with hell and death in his hands. And the last thing that gets defeated is death itself. And here's the one that is difficult to comprehend. What does this mean? Jesus will kill death.
Yes.
How do you kill death?
The day death dies.
How do you kill death? Yet Jesus will kill death. And there will be a time, and that's eternity, where there is no death. No death anywhere in the universe, because God's going to create a brand new universe. He doesn't, the idea that he's setting up a kingdom in Jerusalem, okay?
And that he's going to remodel the earth.
Yeah. Now, what's coming is so grand, so spectacular. It's beyond our human comprehension. It's a whole new universe. New heavens. New heavens.
New heavens, new earth.
The old heaven is
can't contain what's coming.
Besides, it's old. And it reminds him of the first sin. That's where Lucifer sinned, was in heaven. God doesn't want to remember any of it. It's brand new. What's coming is brand new. Your eye you can't comprehend what God is going to do for the human race that believes in his Son. It's brand new. He's going to create again. The Creator is going to create again. There are going to be colors that's never been seen. There are going to be aromas that nobody has ever smelled. The beauty of the world that he's going to create, we can't even comprehend it because it's never existed.
And there are going to be aspects of the Father that we'll learn in that eternity that we don't have the processing ability to do it in this limited earth.
And our learning of him will be ever ongoing.
Right.
Well, through eternity, we'll still be learning of our Father because you can't comprehend him.
Because we had a beginning moving forward. God did not have a beginning, doesn't have an end. And we start traveling with him at that point. I mean, it's beautiful to think about. It makes you just say to this old world, I don't need you anymore.
That day's coming. So don't let this stuff trouble you. Don't let these political leaders and globalists and all these corrupt people, don't let them steal your joy. Be happy, be joyful. If you're saved, if your sins are forgiven, if your name is written in the book of life, you should be full of joy. Full of joy. And the joy ought to just be coming, just oozing out of your being. Everywhere you go, people ought to say, that is a joyful man. That is a joyful woman. What makes them so happy? What makes them so contented in life? That's your opportunity to tell them, my sins are forgiven. I have the promise of eternal life. I will spend eternity with my Heavenly Father. It's your opportunity to praise his name and bring light into the world. You're the salt of the earth, the light of the world. And that's what this world needs right now, salt and light. We thank you for watching. We thank you for praying for us. And we thank you for financially supporting us. We love you very much. And Doc and I will see you tomorrow.
God bless you.